You can live with a dog. You can live with a dog owner. But never live with someone who thinks their Labrador is an angel, and you're the maid. I used to think letting my best friend rent a room was a warm, grown-up idea. The kind that says, we'll split the bills, binge Netflix at night, and come out of our 30s even closer than before. What I didn't account for was Daisy. Daisy is Mandy's yellow Labrador, nearly 90 pounds of buttery fur, and eyes that glisten like she's about to recite poetry. On her first day moving in, she toured the apartment, picking up anything she fancied, a worn sock, my fuzzy slippers, a hairbrush, and finally flopped on a couch like it was her own personal talk show and we were just the audience. I don't hate dogs, but there's something about Daisy that made it feel like I wasn't living with a pet. I was living with a person. She didn't bark. She didn't chew things up. She just watched, like she knew exactly where I hid my snacks. Once, I even caught her standing by the kitchen door, head slightly tilted, watching me eat dinner with a look that said, "That's it? No sharing." At first, everything seemed fine. Mandy was tidy, polite. She helped with the dishes, pay or share the bills, and every time she got home late, she'd whisper, "Thanks again for letting me stay." We baked together, talked about ridiculous exes, and it felt like we could make it through the year without a single crack. But then, the fridge started emptying, quietly, deliberately. I started realizing this wasn't just about a few missing snacks. Things were vanishing in ways too precise to be random. A yogurt cup, unsealed and carefully placed back with just a few spoonfuls gone. A steak I'd marinated for tomorrow's lunch, gone without a trace. One day, I found an empty sausage wrapper in the bathroom, wet and wrinkled, like it had been through some kind of personal odyssey. I began labeling everything in the fridge with a marker, post-it notes with warnings like, "Eat this and inherit bad karma." No one responded, except Daisy, who stared into the kitchen every time I opened the fridge like she was reliving a war memory. I tried bringing it up to Mandy as gently as possible. "I think someone's been sneaking snacks at night." She frowned, chewing gum like she was listening to a true crime podcast. "Are you sure it's not you?" I saw some grease on the counter yesterday. My throat tightened. I don't eat late. I don't even use oil. But I didn't want to escalate things, so I just mumbled something and started wiping the counter. Daisy remained the same, calm, composed, unsettlingly clever. Sometimes I'd catch her standing perfectly still for minutes, gazing at the fridge like she was calculating odds for a successful heist. Other times, she looked at me like I was the one intruding on her territory, not the other way around. Mandy, meanwhile, seemed oblivious. She woke late, left later, came home and cradled Daisy like they were ex-lovers reuniting after a war. One night, I passed by her room and caught her reading out loud to Daisy. I'm not kidding. Jane Austen's voice is so healing, she said when she noticed me standing there. I gave her a tight smile. But inside, my nerves were tangled like a drawer full of old charging cords. At this point, I started to feel erased in my own home. I was the primary tenant. I was the one sharing my space. Yet it felt like I was slowly being pushed to the sidelines by a 90-pound, door-opening, four-legged diplomat who ruled the apartment with faux innocence. And the truth was, one more missing sausage, and I was in a snap. I told myself I was just being dramatic. Maybe I was overthinking it. But then came that night. The night I decided to install a tiny camera in the kitchen. Not to accuse anyone, but to reassure myself. It was small, tucked beneath the cabinet, hidden behind spice jars. No one noticed it, but me. I connected it to my phone, set it to record on motion detection, and left alone. The way people forget they once believed in trust. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something inside me felt unsettled. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I sat up. My heart was beating, not exactly from fear, but from anticipation, like it was waiting for the truth to either confirm or collapse everything. I opened the app, rewound the footage. What I saw changed the way I looked at Daisy forever. The frame lit up with a dim view of the kitchen. A golden blur moved across the screen. Daisy. She crept toward the fridge with suspicious grace, like a seasoned burglar. She stood there for a few seconds, then rose up on her hind legs, balancing her paws on a handle. The fridge popped open. I held my breath. With her nose, she rooted through the contents. Then she clamped her teeth on a pack of sausages from the bottom drawer, dropped it to the floor, curled around it like it was a Christmas present, and began licking the plastic with eerie joy. Then, slowly, she ripped it open, one piece at a time, chewing, pausing, glancing at the door like she knew there was a camera and wanted to put on a show. There was no sound in the video, but I could hear everything. The squish of plastic, the chewing, and the sound of my truss collapsing like a sandcastle in the tide. I pulled back the curtains and stared at the night sky, unsure whether to cry or laugh. I thought of Mandy, the girl I once believed would always be fair, at least when it came to things like food. And I thought of myself, living in my own home, installing surveillance to protect cheese. The next morning, I said nothing. I simply placed my phone on the table, hit play, and stepped back. Mandy watched in silence, her face drained of color. Daisy lay by the chair, breathing steadily, like she'd had a perfect, satisfying night. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like the paranoid one. I was the witness, and the culprit was licking her lips under the table. I didn't know she could do that, Mandy stammered, eyes glued to the phone screen like maybe, just maybe, the footage would erase itself if she stared hard enough. I didn't respond. I just picked up a dish towel and wiped the drool Daisy had left on the floor near the chair. It wasn't the first time I'd done that. It was just the first time I did it knowing. Yes, I was cleaning up after a criminal, a sausage thief in golden fur. After that breakfast, after Mandy rushed Daisy off the park like fresh air might clear the awkwardness, I spent the whole morning wondering what I should do. Kicking Mandy out felt cruel, but staying like this, it would slowly melt my sanity like the ice cream I suspected Daisy had also sampled. I made a list of possible solutions. It started with install fridge lock, then spiraled into buy mini fridge, keep in bedroom, padlock optional. At the very bottom, I scribbled, ask therapist if it's normal to feel jealous of a dog. That evening, Mandy acted like nothing had happened. She sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, holding a mug of chamomile tea like some kind of wholesome wife from a home goods commercial. Daisy's working on boundaries, she said softly. I read this piece about reshaping behavior through emotional reconnection. I nearly choked. Emotional reconnection? This dog just broke into the fridge, hijacked the sausage stash, and chewed like she was at a beach picnic. She needed a lock, not a guided meditation. Daisy, of course, remained unbothered. She looked at me with those calm, assessing eyes. Oh, you still live here? Then, one afternoon, I came home early. The door creaked open. No sign of Mandy, but there was Daisy, on the couch, wearing Mandy's hoodie. I froze. She wasn't just wearing it. She was watching TV. The Great British Bake Off was playing. I swear, she tilted her head with every whisk, every dollop, like she was judging technique. The remote lay beside her paw, as if she'd just changed the channel from Animal Planet. I called her name. Daisy turned slowly, blinked, not startled, not guilty, just evaluating whether I was worth the effort. And in that moment, it hit me, I wasn't the homeowner. I wasn't even the main character. I was a background extra, a temporary guest. And Daisy? Daisy was a star. Every boundary in that apartment had started to melt, just like the popsicles in the freezer, which I now strongly suspected Daisy had taste tested too. By that point, I knew I couldn't keep living like this, trapped in a sitcom I never signed up for. So I launched my counterattack. No drama, no tears, just a quiet reclaiming of space. First, a magnetic fridge lock, the kind made for toddlers. I stuck a note on it. Applies to adults and fully grown dogs. Daisy stared at it like she was reading, then sighed. I swear I'm not imagining that. Next, a second camera. This time in the living room. If Daisy ever pressed the remote again, I'd have proof for Netflix. if necessary. I bought a tiny mini fridge and placed it beside my bed, labeled it not for bipeds or quadrupeds. Then I hid my snacks inside an old first aid kit. No one, not even a genius dog, enjoys opening a box of gauze and antiseptic wipes. Mandy noticed a shift, but she said nothing until one day she knocked on my door, holding a dog training book like a kid turning in late homework. "I think I'm confusing Daisy," she whispered. She senses attention. I looked at her, then looked at Daisy, sprawled on the couch, eyes half closed, legs still wrapped in my cashmere throw. I didn't reply. I just walked over, peeled the blanket off her, folded it neatly, and said, "Yeah, I sensed attention too." That night, I dreamt I was a background character in a wildlife documentary. The narrator's voice was calm and British. Here we observe the urban Labrador, an expert in human behavioral psychology, known for opening refrigerators, decoding body language, and gradually overtaking your living space with innocence and sad eyes. I woke up at 4 a.m., switched on the light, and laughed like someone who's been sleep-deprived for months. I didn't need to reclaim dominance. I just needed boundaries. And if I couldn't get them from my friend, I'd install them myself, with screws and magnetic locks. Daisy might be smart, but I've got Amazon Prime. I thought it would end there. I set boundaries. I locked the fridge. I reclaimed every single sausage in that house with sheer willpower and double-sided tape. But no, Daisy wasn't the kind of opponent who backed down. She was the kind who, when you made a solid chess move, flipped the whole board and laid across it like the game never existed. One morning, I stumbled out of my room in pajamas, brain still fogged with dreams of coffee and snooze buttons. Mandy was sitting cross-legged on a yoga mat, eyes closed, palms gently resting on Daisy's back. "We're practicing mindful breathing," she whispered, eyes still shut. I stood there, stunned. Daisy, the same dog who once devoured an entire ciabatta loaf in under 3 minutes, was meditating, breathing, with rhythm, with intention. I no longer understood what reality I was living in. Over the next week, Mandy started printing positive affirmations for pets and taping them around the apartment. On the bathroom mirror, "You are a beautiful soul. You deserve snacks." Under the kitchen sink, "Even if you knock over the trash can, you are still loved." On the washing machine, "You don't have to be perfect. Just be you." Then one afternoon, Mandy walked in holding a cardboard box. "I signed Daisy up for advanced training," she announced, like she was managing a child star. I raised an eyebrow. "Advanced how?" "She already opens a fridge, picks TV channels, and meditates." Mandy smiled. "This time, she'll learn to paint with her paws." Before I could protest, she set a box of non-toxic watercolor paints on the kitchen counter. 3 days later, I walked into the apartment to find Mandy gleefully hanging an abstract piece on the living room wall. Streaks of blue, pink, and yellow smudged across paper. I stood frozen. "She signed it," Mandy said proudly, pointing to the bottom corner where a muddy paw print marked her signature. "I'm opening an Etsy shop," she beamed. "The name? Paw Castle." The breaking point came the following week. I came home, exhausted after a long day at work, and as I opened the door, I heard piano music, which was odd, because I don't own a piano. I walked in. There was Daisy, perched at a tiny keyboard Mandy had clearly ordered online, pressing keys with her paws, one note at a time. Mandy stood nearby, filming with her phone. "She's composing a mindfulness piece," she squealed. I looked at the camera, currently live streaming to TikTok, where the caption read, "My dog plays piano to heal the collective trauma of millennials." I don't know what broke me, the terrible piano playing or the 12,000 people watching live. That night, I submitted my lease termination notice. It wasn't hate. Honestly, I admired Daisy. I've never known a human who could quietly dominate a home, a friendship, and an online following and still be loved unconditionally. But I couldn't compete with a dog having a breakout artistic career. Before I left, I taped one final note to Fridge. "Congrats on your success, Daisy. Just don't forget who discovered your talent first." I signed it, locked the door one last time. On the way down the stairs, my phone buzzed. Daisy was featured on a local morning show. Segment titled, Canine Meditation and Scholarly Expression. And I thought, well, at least I got to live with an icon. Shame she once licked my mayonnaise jar. Sometimes, boundaries aren't broken by anger, but by innocent eyes and cute behaviors that quietly go too far. This story isn't just about a clever dog. It's a reminder that if you don't protect your space and your sanity, some Daisy will take over. Friendship is valuable, but self-respect and personal limits matter even more. Thank you for sticking with me through the end of this wild little journey. If you've ever found yourself in a situation where a roommate, a pet, or both took over your space and maybe your sanity, share your story in the comments, or just tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next ridiculous chapter of real life. Your support means the world.